Today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
A professional would not get on the phone with a student or another professional and spend 30 minutes out of their day, and they only have 8 hours in a day to do their work. They wouldn't do that for someone they didn't want to help. And so that's why when I tell people, if they get on the phone with someone, it means they want to help them.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Jonathan Javier. Jonathan is the CEO and founder of Onesulting, a career consulting company whose mission is to turn underdogs into winners, helping those who come from non-target schools and non-traditional backgrounds get their dream careers. So far, he's helped tens of thousands land opportunities in top companies. He's also worked in strategy and operations at Google, Snap, and Cisco. He has also provided advice and words of wisdom on LinkedIn and through more than 75 speaking engagements in 4 different countries. Jonathan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Carolyn. And I am super excited to talk today to you in regards to helping turn underdogs into winners.
Wonderful. I'm so excited to learn more about your story. And I would love to really start with that because you really have an amazing journey that you took from being in college, trying to figure out your own path, and a lot of really amazing things that you learned and tried along the way in order to get the career and the career experiences that you wanted to get. So would love if you could start, maybe from your college days and, how did you start out and how did you kind of start building your career path there?
Yeah, of course. So when I was in college, it wasn't that too long ago. It was about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was graduating from UC Riverside, class of 2017, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in my career. And I remember my school was teaching me like, hey, go to apply to hundreds of jobs and then wait. But then I realized that there's so many simpler processes that you can utilize in order to get into your career coming from that non-target school like UC Riverside. So what I was doing was a lot of networking on LinkedIn. People literally call me like, you're the LinkedIn guy, right? So, and the funny thing is I've utilized LinkedIn to get in each of my companies at Snapchat, Google, Cisco. I actually never applied to any of them, basically. So how I did that was I used LinkedIn Message. So I was messaging recruiters and hiring managers through the platform to get into Snapchat. I then created LinkedIn content to specifically get into Google. And then I created a personal brand around myself where I keyword optimized my profile to fit a position at Cisco. And that's how I got into there. And then all of these accumulated to basically the introduction of Onesulting, which our mission is to turn underdogs into winners, basically helping those who come from these non-target schools, non-traditional backgrounds, and help them get into their dream careers. So as you mentioned before, we've helped tens of thousands of students and professionals get into those careers. And hopefully we can continue doing that, especially during these times.
That's amazing. And all of that in just about 3 years, as you were saying. It's a relatively short amount of time. That's great.
Exactly.
How did you get the idea to even try using LinkedIn? Because I feel like LinkedIn may not be on a lot of college students' radars. I mean, I think that's changing, but I think still LinkedIn is not something that a lot of people are aware of and the real power of it.
Yeah. So how I got utilizing LinkedIn was it's because I realized that my school didn't have the companies that I was interested in. So when I was graduating, I wanted to work in the big tech companies. Mm-hmm. But then I realized that I couldn't simply go to my career center and say, hey, I need a connection at Google. I need a connection at LinkedIn. So I had to think of different strategies in order to get into my career. And I realized it was through LinkedIn. I was chatting with all these people and they were like, yeah, I talked to people who were alumni of my school, alumni of specific organizations. And I realized that there are so many strategies on LinkedIn where you can find the exact professionals who have graduated from your university or are part of the same organizations you're a part of that you can network with in order to get into your career. And so that's when I told myself, okay, I'm going to use LinkedIn because I have nothing to lose, but I have everything to gain. And that's why, like Carolyn, I literally sent hundreds of messages a week to people because I just knew like there's nothing for me to lose at this point. If someone doesn't respond to me, they don't respond. But at the end of the day, if one person responds to you out of the 100 people and that becomes a career opportunity, then that is what's worth it. And that's exactly what happened to me. Someone took a chance on me at Snapchat, was able to get into my career just from a simple LinkedIn message. And that's why I advocated for so much, because instead of me searching for 40 hours a week, it only took me about 3 hours a week instead. And that's why I teach a lot of these students and professionals that the job process shouldn't be as complex as it seems. It should be simple, yet effective. And that's why I've been able to teach so many people in regards to how to do that.
So in addition to sending those hundreds of messages, I imagine that that was really the start of trying to grow your network and build those relationships. So from there, was it that some of those professionals reached back out to you? Maybe you had conversations with them, or kind of what happened after people responded to those initial messages?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So I would have probably a phone chat every single day. I would even have multiple. And I realized that I had so many, yet I wasn't getting anywhere. I was like, wow, I'm having a phone chat with this person and I'm getting advice, but I'm not getting into the company. And I was confused. I was like, well, how am I going to get into the company? But you know what I realized? I realized months down the road, the reason why I wasn't able to get into the companies I initially wanted to get into was because I never asked for help. I would just be like, hey, I want to have a conversation with you to get to know you for you, which is great. And that's what you should do. Mm-hmm. But a professional, a recruiter will not know if you need help unless you tell them. So that's why I stress to people, if you need help in your career, simply ask a professional or ask a recruiter for that help. Don't be scared, because no one's going to be like, hey, Jonathan, I can't help you. Instead, especially during these times, they'll be like, sure, I can help you. If I can't help you, I know someone else that can. And so that's when I changed my mindset. And that's how I basically got into my career, because I asked for help. And if you ask, you shall receive, as they say. And that's what basically happened to me.
That's amazing. When you were making your ask for help, did you have a specific way that you phrased it? What did you learn about the best ways to put in that ask and get people to be able to respond to you?
Yeah. So when you're asking for help, or for example, what I usually do is like the ask for the referral, you simply have to ask. People think it's super complex and you have to like wait 3 times for you to get a referral. But in reality, if you think about it, a professional would not get on the phone with a student or another professional and spend 30 minutes out of their day, and they only have 8 hours in a day to do their work. They wouldn't do that for someone they didn't want to help. And so that's why when I tell people, if they get on the phone with someone, that means they want to help them. And so what you can do is you chat with the person on the phone for 25 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Talk about their career. What I say is be their biggest fan. Like just be like, wow, I see you've done XYZ. I see you've come from my university. I've seen that you transitioned from tech to startup. If you're able to do this, you're able to establish rapport with these individuals, and then you're able to make and create a relationship. And then at the end, that's when you ask. You simply say something like, yeah, thanks again for chatting with me. I really appreciate it. I saw this position on your website for a web designer at Snapchat. I'm really interested in the position. I really want to be able to receive an interview. How do I get an interview? What's the answer to that question? The answer to that question is you get referred. So you indirectly ask for the referral. And if the person had a great conversation with you, they'll just be like, yeah, Jonathan, I'll give you a referral. Here you go. And that's how I basically was able to get those referrals from these companies.
Wow. So is that how you got the referral into Snapchat? Because that was your first position at a top company when you were coming right out of college. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. So for Snapchat, it was a very interesting story. So I actually sent a message to a recruiter who was recruiting for Snapchat. At first, she didn't respond. But then the second time I sent her a message, I attached my resume and I told her why I was qualified. And then that's when she spoke to me. And I basically cut off the sourcer from the process and went straight to the hiring manager. That's why I tell people, if you can find the hiring manager for specific roles on LinkedIn, you've literally cut the process in half. That's what I basically did with Snapchat. And then the most amazing story, I'll make it quick. I got the final interview. I basically went in before the interview. Like I said before, I had nothing to lose, but everything to gain. What I did was I went to Dollar Tree. I bought a yellow folder. Snapchat is yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Put my resumes in there, my cover letter, and I printed out my business project from a class that utilized the same technology that Snapchat used.
Oh.
I printed the whole thing and I put it in the yellow folder. Went to the interview, got a case study, which I wasn't expecting, did amazing on the case study. And they asked after, they were like, how did you do so well in the case study? I literally pulled out my yellow folder. I put it on the desk and I said, take a look at my project. I've done your whole entire app utilizing geolocation in my past class from UC Riverside. They looked at each other and smiled. And 1 hour later, I received the offer. And it was probably the fastest offer they've ever given, according to the recruiter. And so the reason why I share this story is because for those listening in, especially students or even professionals, remember that the projects you're doing, don't just do them to do them. Think about them in long term, because later down on the road, imagine you utilizing that as a value prop for you getting into a company that you've only dreamed of.
That's really powerful. The networking is a really important piece of it, of course, and the way of having those direct conversations and getting referrals. But also, you need to be prepared yourself. So you need to have it's hard when you're coming out of school to say you need the skills and the experiences, but you at least need to have the focus and the interest so that at least you know what your dream companies are and you're targeting your work and everything that you're doing towards them, so that the more you learn about them, the more you can prove ahead of time that you would be a fit there.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And yeah, you have to prepare. And how you prepare is simply by doing these informational interviews. The reason how I did it was basically before my interview at Snapchat, what I did was I identified what the position was that I was interviewing for, which was the operations analyst role. What I did was I reached out to all the operations analysts from Snapchat that worked at Snapchat. I tried to have informational interviews with them and I learned about what they did on their day-to-day. I took that information and when I reached out to the recruiter, I knew exactly what the operations analyst did already because I already networked with the person before. So if you're able to do that, especially for those listening, because a lot of people will go straight to the recruiter and then the recruiter will ask them questions and the person will be like, I don't know, right? But imagine you already know what the recruiter is looking for because you've already talked to someone in the role. You have literally put yourself in a position where you are a qualified and prime candidate because of that reason.
And even before you talk to the hiring manager, because you're going to have the same types of conversations, probably even more in depth with the hiring manager who knows much more about what they actually want for the roles that they're hiring for. So if you can talk to other people who have similar roles or who work with that open role, even before talking to the hiring manager, that could be really helpful too.
Right, exactly. So that's how you do it.
Fantastic. So how many dream companies did you have on your list? Because that's a lot of focus and effort that you put into each one because you really want to kind of personalize and prove that you could fit at all of those.
Yeah. So my dream companies were Google or LinkedIn. All right. Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting because I realized that now dream companies, in my perception, when I was a student, were companies I based it off the brand name. I realized I just wanted to work there for the name, not for the company. And that's why I actually started Onesulting because I was like, wow, I made it into these companies, but were they actually my dream companies? No, they actually weren't because I realized that my dream is to help underdogs turn into winners. It was to help people get into these companies. I loved working at them. Don't get me wrong, but if I'm able to help other people get there too as well, coming from non-target and non-traditional backgrounds, then my work is done. And that to me is making not only my dreams a reality, but making that other person's. So that's why I had multiple dreams, but I realized the true dream was Onesulting. And nowadays it's been coming into reality of a community of individuals that really believe in our mission. And that's what I've always hoped and strived for. And it's just kind of a blessing. It's just really just based off timing too as well. I was watching a TED Talk last week and it was talking about how to do startups succeed. And the number one factor was timing. And I realized timing for Onesulting right now has been really effective. And it's been able to help so many people during these times of uncertainty. And that's what I hope that we can continue doing for months and years to come.
Absolutely. And the career that you built for yourself, you had the opportunity to work for 3 top tier dream companies. But really, Onesulting was your end goal. I don't know if it was all along, but certainly over a long term. So you really were very thoughtful about how to get the experience and the skills that you needed in order to create Onesulting. And
Hmm.
so everything kind of feeds into that.
Hmm. Yeah. And, I actually just worked at those three companies, not to stay there long term. I wanted to work at each of those companies and learn more about how they were successful. See, this is what I truly believe about entrepreneurship is that why reinvent the wheel when you can learn from these big corporate companies that are making millions and billions of dollars? So that's what I did. Snapchat, Google, Cisco. I learned the community operations side. I learned the advertisement side. I learned the community side, and I basically implemented it all into Onesulting. And then to as well, the credential aspect of it, because when I teach people these strategies, I tell them like, yeah, I got into Snapchat, Google, Cisco, and you can too. So that's why I basically was moving from these different companies in order to get into my career. But the long-term goal at the end of it was, of course, Onesulting.
Yeah. And now is that where you're focusing your time full time, or do you also still work at another company as well?
Yeah, so I've been transitioning actually out of Cisco. I actually have 1 month left and I'll be transitioning to doing Onesulting full time starting in May. It's been honestly a dream of mine, of course, that's going to turn into reality. So I've been really pushing for it and have been able to have a group of community and a team that has also been super supportive. So I'm excited. People always ask me, are you nervous? But no, I'm not nervous at all because this is my dream turning into reality. And if that dream can turn into reality, the nerves go away. The excitement comes from chatting with all these students and professionals and being on podcasts like this to share stories and share these stories that will inspire and empower other individuals to be like, wow, I want to do the same. So yeah, I'm super excited for it, to say the least.
That's great. And you've been preparing for this all along. So it's not just a whim or an idea. It's really, you've been very focused on making this dream a reality by getting the exact experiences that you need in order to be able to help people, which I think is really amazing and just so exciting. And especially at a time right now, I mean, we're recording at the end of April 2020, and the world is very challenged now. And I'd especially, trying to imagine students that are graduating from college or even looking for internships, or people who are just trying to start their careers are facing such a challenging environment right now with the uncertainty in the world. And it sounds like Onesulting's services would be of very high and special need, especially now, even more than ever.
Definitely. Yeah. And like I said before, we're here to help. So if anybody is listening in, definitely let us know if you need help.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about what you do with Onesulting. So, we've talked a little bit about it already, that you help people get into their dream companies. Like, how do you find the, I call them clients, or how do you find the students or the clients that you work with? And how do you help them match up what they have in their head as their dream companies and the experiences they bring, and kind of help them either channel or formulate that into a strategy for job hunting and networking?
Great question. So, you know what the funny thing is? We actually do no reach outs. Like
Wow.
mostly we don't do any reach outs for our clients. It's all inbound basically. So yeah, a lot of people just reach out to us and are like, hey, I want to work with you guys. Hey, I've heard about Onesulting through LinkedIn. Hey, I've heard about Onesulting through a friend. Hey, I've heard about Onesulting because your LinkedIn content keeps popping up in my feed.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a bad thing. But basically, yeah. So when I work with clients, I basically teach them the strategies that I've utilized in order to get into my own career. And I also am partnered with my COO, Jerry Lee, too, as well, who helps me with this too. But yeah, we basically teach a lot of these students and professionals super simple techniques in order to get into their careers. So for example, like we'll build out like LinkedIn strategies. We have a masterclass actually tonight that we're doing our first one tonight, which is going to be really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different great services that we offer. And at the end of it, we have a lot of success stories that come out of it, which is basically the point. Because if we don't have any people who are successful from it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not job fulfillment to me. I'm never a person who does transactional. Like I don't want it to be like, okay, like you're going to pay me X amount and that's it. Bye-bye. Right. I want your investment to be not only an investment into me, but an investment into your future. And so that's why actually I've grown my professional network significantly. So what happens is the reason why I have such a big supportive network is because the strategies that I teach people, the one that I reached out to people, I stayed in touch with them, I followed up with them, over 100 of them, they're the same supporters who have supported me since day one, and they've truly believed in Onesulting. They're the ones who have been on the speaker series, which we just had last week on Friday. We had about 13,000 people attend. It's just all about maintaining those relationships and then passing the baton off to another person. That is what will help them get into their careers.
Yeah. And so do you help your clients prepare for interviews or help prepare them to send those LinkedIn messages and figure out who to network with? Like, what kind of services do you usually offer?
Yeah. So we have a lot of different services, or I'll just say some of our favorite ones that people like to do are LinkedIn strategies. So we basically tailor a LinkedIn strategy deck in regards to how to reach out to people, how to get into your dream career, etc. Another one is job opportunities. So we have a vast network of people that we work with, whether it's hiring managers or recruiters, and we'll refer those people to these recruiters and hiring managers at the respective companies they're interested in. We also have interview prep, like you said, which is like 30 minutes to an hour, just depends on what they need. And then also too, as well, we have another popular one is our speaker series. So our speaker series, I've really been privileged to speak in over 80 speaking engagements in the past year and a half now so far, which has been incredible just to speak in different places. Like I've spoken in Jordan, the country, in Vancouver. I'm actually speaking for Nigeria on May 8th, which is going to be really cool. It's going to be virtual, but still an amazing experience, right? But yeah, it's just awesome. I love that part, the speaking engagement part, because you're able to impact so many people who attend the event, and they're just, like I say, mind blown about the techniques that we teach because they're so simple, and they look at each other and they're like, wow, like I can do this, because that's what the point is of it, right? To get people to do it.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. And you mentioned that you've gotten a lot of great feedback from the people that you've been helping even in the past several weeks. I know I've seen a lot of the posts come up on my LinkedIn about students thanking you for the help that you've given them through Onesulting. Are there any success stories that kind of stick in your mind that are especially meaningful, maybe something recent or something really big or unexpected?
Yeah. So a success story that was amazing was one of my mentees. He reached out to me in February 2019. I remember I was at Google at the time, and he was interning at Northrop Grumman, which is a great company. It's an amazing company. And I remember he met up with me and he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do Northrop Grumman full time. I'm just going to go into it. He's like, but my dream is to get into a Google or get into one of the big tech companies. And I told him, why don't you do that right now? And he said, oh, I go to Cal Poly Pomona. I don't think it's possible. Like, they don't specifically recruit from there. And I told him, I'm like, hey, like, if I can do it, you can too. And so what I did with him was I strategized exactly how to get there. He did exactly what I said. He utilized those LinkedIn strategies. He reached out to so many different people, and he was able to get interviews at Cisco, Google, Facebook, ultimately accepting Google's offer this past year as a bold intern, one of the first ones to ever come from Cal Poly Pomona, a truly non-target school. The reason why I say the success story is brilliant is because he didn't believe in himself at first. He was actually homeless before. He lived with his parents in his van, and he didn't think that he could make it. But that underdog in him turned into a winner by utilizing strategies that were so simple that he got into Google. And that's what I hope that everyone can do, right? Not just get into the Googles of the world, get into the Deloittes, get into the Goldman Sachs, get into the startups. It's not as difficult as it seems. But if you're able to have people who are mentor you or guide you down that path to success, then that is what makes the difference in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I was thinking, back to something that you said earlier in the interview, is that sometimes people think of what their dream company is, where they really want to work. But, from the outside, sometimes you're really going off the brand and the cool things that you see as a consumer. So I'm curious if you ever work with clients who say, oh, my dream job is like a a Google or a Facebook, but then do you ever talk with people and dig a little bit and maybe they change their mind as far as what their dream companies really are? Or do mostly people know exactly what they want to target?
Yeah, this is a great question. So a lot of people will say that Google is their dream company. And the answer to that question, I ask them why. And they're like, oh, it's because of the name. Oh, it's because of the culture. There's so many aspects of why you want to work at a specific company that you should consider before joining the company. It's not just because of the brand. It's not just because of the prestige, but maybe it's because of the individuals that you could potentially be with. Maybe it's that team environment that you want to get into. And I really dig into what they are specifically passionate about before giving them a deliberate answer of what they should get into. Because a lot of people, for example, like what I factor in is not only brand name, but the company, the position, the work-life balance, the title, all these different factors play a huge effect, especially when you're trying to work at a company. That's very important to identify. You have to identify what your niche is, what you're really truly passionate for. And if you're able to do that, then whatever happens after is what can help you get into your career. Like I was just talking to someone about 2 weeks ago who signed up for our Finding Your Passion service. And he didn't know exactly what he wanted to do in his career. He was pretty lost. But then I asked him, I dug basically 6 layers deeper into his answer of why he wanted to work at X company. And I realized it's not because of the brand name. It's not because of the compensation. It's not because of basically the company, but it's because of the work and the passion that he holds. So he wanted to get into a company that he was truly passionate about the work he did, regardless of the title, regardless of the company. And if you're able to identify that, then everything else flows fluently into your life and it makes you a happier person. That's what I realize about a lot of these positions. A lot of these positions people jump into and just do it so they can just do it. But if you get into a company that you thoroughly enjoy, that ultimately affects your mentality. And then when you get outside of work, it's going to make you happier too as well.
That makes a lot of sense. And I would imagine that that also helps your application and your own case when you are applying for jobs at your dream company or interviewing at your dream company. Because companies like Google and Facebook and even other companies that are cool in the public eye, I don't know, like NASCAR or something like that, they have a lot of fans. So I imagine they get a ton of applications like, I'd love to work here because I'm a big fan of yours. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's everybody. But you're able to dig down and really say, no, I have a real true reason. It's about the type of work that you do, and this is how I would fit into it. I think that's especially powerful. And I think that's a piece a lot of people miss when they're applying for jobs.
When they're job hunting, yeah, no, definitely. Like they definitely identify your niche, identify what makes you tick, what makes you happy, because that will help you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So you are continuing to work with clients and students and many others through Onesulting, especially at this time that we're in now where, the employment situation is looking pretty dire and uncertain sometimes.
Yeah.
You've already shared a lot of great advice on the podcast already today, but, in light of our current, especially challenging employment situation, are there any other types of advice that you would either have people increase doing certain things or do things differently to improve their chances that you would recommend?
Yeah, good question. So what I would say for my ending advice, don't apply, get referred. I always stress this. You should put 80% of your time into networking, 20% of your time in applying. The reason being is right now, companies have hiring freezes, but if you are networking right now with people who are in specific companies and industries, then you are taking the steps to the next recruiting cycle where you're able to stand out. And then that's when you ask for the referral. Because what people are doing right now are literally applying.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not going to hear back. But if you get networking right now, and then later on you ask for that referral, you have taken the steps to get into your career and you're thinking in the long term rather than the short term. So for those listening in, definitely do that. Secondly, do not panic. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and they're panicking. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job. Oh my gosh, I'm getting furloughed. Oh my gosh, I'm doing XYZ, right? Don't panic. There's a light at the end of the tunnel where we will see soon. What you do now is what's going to make that light bigger at the end of the tunnel. So make sure the things that you're doing right now is not panicking, but instead networking. So network, and you will see your dreams turn into life and make those things into realities.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's a great reminder, at least from my perspective, is that finding jobs through networking like this, it's a long game. It's not a quick fix like, oh, I need a job next week. Let me start networking now. It almost never works that way. I don't know what your opinion is on that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. Like, that's why I was saying about the panicking, because people panic and be like, hey, Carolyn, I need a job now. Help me. Right.
Right.
But I might not even know you, or that person might not even know you. So you have to play a long-term game in this case, and you have to make sure you don't panic. You stay calm. And how you stay calm is you have friends and family that will help you do that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with Onesulting, what goals do you have long-term for it? So you're doing a lot of really great work now. Do you have any big aspirations or goals that you'd like to see Onesulting doing in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So definitely want to build out a bigger team. Of course, we have mentees, which has been amazing. They have been awesome. I used to originally have 20 mentees, but now I have 40. The first 20 mentees all got into the big tech companies coming from non-target schools, all of them, 100% of them, which has been amazing. So we have another cohort. We're going to be starting a kind of professional development accelerator from that, where we take in cohorts of different individuals who want to get into their careers and do it through that way, because we've seen huge success. That's one part. The second part is to do our courses, which we've been working on. Unfortunately, during these times, we haven't been able to fly anywhere to record them, but we've been working on them diligently. So I'm really excited for that. Third part is the speaking engagements. I mean, it's just been a privilege and amazing to speak at so many different places. And I want to continue doing that in different countries, because I want to travel. I mean, I love traveling. I was traveling so much before this happened, but what I say is that things happen for a reason. And this reason was not a setback, but it was a comeback, right? So yeah, I mean, that part of it too as well. And then of course, working on our one-on-one services, our one-on-ones with different individuals. And if we're able to do that, then I feel like that will be amazing, to say the least.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Wow. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the type of work that Onesulting does, or if they want to work with you?
Yeah, of course. So definitely add me on LinkedIn, Jonathan Javier. Definitely follow us on LinkedIn too as well at Onesulting. Our website is onesulting.com. And to contact us, it's at hello@onesulting.com. We have a lot of different services that we can help you with. And we're here to help, as we said. We're here to help you turn from underdogs into winners. And if we're able to do that, then our job is complete. So yeah, definitely hit us up on LinkedIn, Instagram, all these different platforms, and we hope to see you soon.
Wonderful. So I'll put those links in the show notes as well so that people can access it easily from there. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on my podcast today. As we close out, is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know, or anything that they can help or support you with?
Yeah. What I say is not only be supportive of my content, but be supportive of others too as well. If you see something valuable, like and comment on it. If you see someone giving value to others, recognize it. Sometimes professionals just want to be recognized and be praised and just have a simple thank you, right? A simple thank you only takes about 2 seconds to say or 2 seconds to write. So being thankful is what's super important, especially during these times.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to show appreciation for people's work because, it takes a lot, as you know, to put yourself out there. So it's always wonderful to get good comments and good support from people. It's a great thing people can do.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks again, Jonathan. I really appreciate you being on my show today.
Of course. Thank you so much again. Really do appreciate it and looking forward to the future.
Thanks for listening to Beyond 6 Seconds. Please help us spread the word about this podcast. Share it with a friend. Give us a shout out on your social media or write a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find all of our episodes on our website and sign up for our free newsletter at www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.